On November 24, 1971, just before Thanksgiving, on Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, a phantom quietly appeared, ready to unleash terror in the sky. He carried a homemade bomb to strike a deal, $200,000 in unmarked cash, and 4 parachutes in exchange for the lives of 42 passengers. After the demands were met, he took the ransom and made a fateful jump into the void. Over half a century has passed, but the question remains haunting and unresolved. Who was D.B. Cooper really? Did he miraculously survive the jump or perish mid-air? Can the mystery of his fate ever be solved? Don't forget to like and subscribe to follow the unexpected twists of this shocking case. At 2:50 p.m. on November 24, 1971, just before Thanksgiving in the U.S., a Boeing 787 operated by Northwest Orient Airlines departed from Portland Airport bound for Seattle. It was a short domestic flight, expected to last only about 30 minutes. On board were 36 passengers and 6 crew members. Among them, a man seated in 18C looked refined in a black suit, white shirt, tie, sunglasses, quietly staring out the window. He remained calm and unremarkable until he handed a small note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner, 23 years old. When she didn't read it immediately, he leaned toward her and whispered, "You better read that note. I have a bomb." Florence panicked. Her hand trembling, she opened the note and read the short but chilling message. "I have a bomb in my briefcase. Sit next to me." Terrified, the flight attendant obeyed. Cooper opened his briefcase, revealing 8 red cylindrical objects wired to a large battery, resembling a homemade explosive. Calmly, he stated his demands: $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, 2 main, 2 reserves, and a fuel truck ready at Seattle-Tacoma Airport upon landing. He also warned Florence he would detonate the bomb if his demands were not met. Trying to stay calm, Florence quietly left Cooper's seat and went straight to the cockpit to report the emergency to the captain. Upon hearing the news, Captain William Scott immediately contacted Seattle's Air Traffic Control, ATC, to report the crisis on board. Seattle ATC quickly relayed the information to Northwest Orient Airlines President Donald Nyrop and informed the FBI. Mr. Nyrop issued a clear directive: fully cooperate with the hijacker to ensure the safety of all passengers and crew. Following instructions, a second flight attendant, Tina Mucklow, was assigned to sit beside Cooper and act as the main liaison with the cockpit. Meanwhile, the FBI swiftly mobilized. They worked with a Seattle bank to prepare the $200,000 ransom in 20 bills, as requested. Each bill's serial number was carefully recorded or photographed to aid in future tracking. While the ransom and parachutes were being arranged on the ground, Captain Scott was ordered to circle over Puget Sound near Seattle for nearly 2 hours. Thus, a short domestic flight, expected to last only 30 minutes from Portland to Seattle, unexpectedly turned into a tense, mid-air crisis lasting over 3 hours. During nearly 2 hours of circling, passengers were only told that the flight was delayed due to a minor technical issue being resolved. None of them could have imagined that, right in the passenger cabin, a deadly threat could detonate at any moment at the will of the man in seat 18C. At 5:46 p.m., the Boeing 727 landed at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. As Cooper requested, the aircraft was directed to a well-lit, isolated area far from the main terminal and other planes. There, a representative from Northwest Orient Airlines delivered the $200,000 cash and 4 parachutes as agreed. After thoroughly checking the money and parachutes, confirming all demands were met, D.B. Cooper allowed all 36 passengers and flight attendant Florence Schaffner to safely leave the plane. He kept only 4 essential crew members: Captain William Scott, First Officer Bill Ratatczak, Flight Engineer H.E. Anderson, and Flight Attendant Tina Mucklow. The Boeing 727 was then refueled under Cooper's instructions. He issued new flight orders: fly southeast toward Mexico City. He specified flight conditions: maintain a steady altitude of 10,000 feet, fly as slowly as possible to reduce turbulence, around 100 knots or 185 kilometers per hour, deploy landing gear, and set flaps to 15 degrees. The crew had to comply with this risky, highly unusual configuration in bad weather, cold rain, strong wind, and pitch darkness. Although Captain Scott warned that the aircraft wouldn't have enough fuel to reach Mexico City with that setup, Cooper remained indifferent and insisted on sticking to the plan. Then, Cooper made an odd request. He ordered Tina Mucklow to leave the cabin and stay inside the cockpit with the crew, locking the door behind her. Now completely alone in the spacious rear cabin, Cooper began preparing for his final move. He dressed up, rechecked his gear, and quietly walked toward the rear air stair of the plane. At approximately 8:13 p.m., a warning light in the cockpit suddenly lit up, indicating the rear air stairs of the Boeing 727 had been lowered mid-flight. This was a design feature of the Boeing 727, allowing the stairs to be opened even while airborne. Unfortunately, it created a critical security loophole, one Cooper clearly understood and exploited. It was from that stairway, in the midst of stormy, freezing night skies, that D.B. Cooper made his historic jump, vanishing into the darkness with $200,000 in ransom. Almost immediately after, the cockpit crew felt a sudden pressure shift and a strong jolt from the rear of the plane. Once certain Cooper had jumped, the crew redirected the plane and safely landed at Reno Airport in Nevada at around 10:15 p.m. As soon as the plane stopped, police and FBI agents immediately secured the scene and conducted a thorough inspection of the Boeing 727. The few clues Cooper left behind included a black JCPenney tie with a mother-of-pearl pin, 8 smoked Raleigh cigarette butts, and 2 of the 4 parachutes. Investigators also collected a total of 66 potential fingerprint samples from various locations within the aircraft cabin. However, none of the samples matched any criminal records or helped reveal Cooper's true identity. The briefcase said to contain the bomb, the entire $200,000 ransom, and the parachute Cooper used, all vanished with the mysterious suspect into the night. Amid the drama of the incident, one factor especially noted by media and investigators was the astonishing calm and professionalism of the flight crew. The most outstanding among them was flight attendant Tina Mucklow. She was the one who had to directly interact with Cooper, respond to his demands, and stay with him for most of the hijacking. Tina Mucklow displayed remarkable composure and handled the situation with great skill and courage, contributing significantly to the safety of everyone on board. First Officer Bill Ratachak, one of the 4 crew members who stayed with Cooper during the final flight leg, later remarked, "Her calmness was extraordinary. I truly can't imagine anyone handling that situation better than Tina." Although the man on board introduced himself as Dan Cooper, the case became widely known as D.B. Cooper due to an early reporting error by the media. According to sources, a journalist in Portland misheard the name from a law enforcement source and published it as D.B. Cooper. Since then, the name became legendary, tied to one of the most mysterious and captivating, unsolved aviation cases in U.S. history. From the early days of the investigation, the FBI believed Dan Cooper was almost certainly a fake name. It made little sense for a criminal to use their real identity in such a serious and meticulously planned crime. Analyzing flight data and testimonies, the FBI estimated Cooper carried around 9.7 kilograms of cash. Cooper jumped from the Boeing 727 at about 10,000 feet, while the plane was flying at roughly 170 knots, in extremely poor weather conditions, over rugged, sparsely populated terrain in southwest Washington. This area is known for its complex geography, including dense forests, rivers, steep cliffs, and harsh late November weather. Notably, Cooper wore only a business suit, had no warm clothing, no protective gear for parachuting, and carried no survival equipment. Carrying such a large amount of cash was also a major obstacle for movement and survival after the jump. Therefore, the FBI's initial and strongest hypothesis was that Cooper's chances of surviving the landing were extremely low, almost non-existent. However, this theory began to waver in the following years when other hijackings occurred using similar methods after the D.B. Cooper case. Remarkably, the hijackers in these later cases survived their parachute landings, though most were eventually captured. 2 standout cases were Martin McNally in 1972 and Richard McCoy Jr. in 1972. The latter even became a long-standing suspect of being D.B. Cooper. Both jumped from Boeing 727s in bad weather and at similar or greater altitudes than Cooper, yet landed successfully. These incidents forced FBI investigators to admit that the suspect may have survived. One detail: Cooper bluntly refused parachute instructions from flight attendant Tina Mucklow, further supported the theory he had parachuting experience. He is said to have calmly replied, "Not necessary, I know what I'm doing." Investigators believe the suspect was likely trained in parachuting, possibly through military service or aviation-related industries. On the morning of November 25, 1971, the FBI launched a large-scale ground and air search with local police and the military around the rugged forests near Lake Merwin and the Lewis River in southwest Washington. This was the area investigators calculated as the likely landing zone based on the flight path, wind speed, and estimated jump time. Hundreds of soldiers from nearby Fort Lewis and FBI agents searched the area for days, checking farms and homes near the woods. A mini-submarine was also used to scan Lake Merwin at depths over 60 meters, but no trace of Cooper or the parachute was found. Alongside the field search, the FBI also launched efforts to track the ransom money. The serial numbers of all 10,000 $20 bills were carefully recorded and distributed to banks, casinos, major businesses, and law enforcement across the US and several other countries. A reward of $1,000 was also offered to anyone who provided information leading to the recovery of any of the ransom bills. However, despite the massive and prolonged effort, the money trail led nowhere for many years. At the end of 1971, to aid identification, the FBI released the first suspect sketches of D.B. Cooper, based on detailed accounts from flight attendants Florence Schaffner, Tina Mucklow, and some passengers. At least two official sketch versions, with slight differences, were widely circulated in late 1971 and early 1972. On January 2, 1973, after reviewing testimonies, the FBI released a third sketch. According to Florence Schaffner, this version was the most accurate depiction of the suspect's appearance. Based on psychological profiling and sketch criteria, white male, aged 40 to 50, about 6 feet tall, knowledge of aviation or parachuting, the FBI narrowed down over 800 suspects within the first few years. Among the suspects investigated in the early 1970s, the most notable and controversial was Richard McCoy Jr. McCoy was a former Green Beret and Utah National Guard Air Force veteran, a helicopter pilot, and an experienced parachutist. In April 1972, just 5 months after Cooper's hijacking, McCoy hijacked a plane using nearly identical methods. He also chose a Boeing 727, requested 4 parachutes, demanded $500,000 in ransom, and jumped from the plane after receiving the money. However, unlike Cooper, McCoy was arrested just 2 days later at his home in Utah. In interrogation, when asked about the 1971 hijacking, McCoy remained silent, neither confirming nor denying involvement. The striking similarities led the FBI to suspect that McCoy might actually be D.B. Cooper, calling his 1972 crime a second appearance. This theory gained traction after the 1991 release of the book D.B. Cooper, The Real McCoy by former FBI agents Bernie Rhodes and Russell Kalaman. The book presented several arguments and evidence supporting that Richard McCoy Jr. was in fact D.B. Cooper. One striking detail was that McCoy's ex-wife allegedly recognized the pearl tie clip Cooper left on Flight 305 as identical to one owned by her husband. Most importantly, McCoy's appearance didn't match the consistently detailed witness descriptions and sketches of D.B. Cooper. Moreover, at the time of the 1971 hijacking, McCoy had a solid alibi. He was home with family in Utah, hundreds of miles away from the Pacific Northwest crime scene. In August 1974, Richard McCoy Jr. and several other inmates executed a daring escape from Lewisburg Federal Prison in Pennsylvania by ramming a garbage truck through the main gate. McCoy's escape lasted only 3 months. In November 1974, he was tracked down and fatally shot by FBI agents during a fierce shootout in Virginia Beach, Virginia, ending the turbulent life of one of the most controversial D.B. Cooper suspects. Another name that once drew attention was Robert Wesley Rackstraw, born in 1943 in Ohio. Rackstraw was a former U.S. Army veteran who served in Vietnam with a complex personal history and a criminal record that included check fraud, illegal possession of explosives, airplane theft, and lying to the police. These factors, combined with his parachuting training and military skills, made Rackstraw a potential suspect in the D.B. Cooper case. In 1978, after reviewing his background and suspicious activities, the FBI officially added Rackstraw to the list of persons of interest. However, due to a lack of direct evidence or strong connections, the FBI later dropped him from the priority list. The Rackstraw angle resurfaced in 2011 when investigative journalist and documentary producer Thomas J. Colbert released findings from his independent inquiry. Colbert's Casebreakers team, comprising over 40 experts in investigations, military analysis, cryptology, and forensics, spent years gathering and reanalyzing evidence linked to Rackstraw and the D.B. Cooper case. Colbert and his team highlighted several suspicious parallels between Rackstraw and D.B. Cooper's profile, such as: first, Rackstraw had served in special forces units and had knowledge of aviation, including the Boeing 727. He was formally trained in parachuting and special operations and might have understood how the rear air stair mechanism worked, the key element Cooper used to escape. However, the FBI rejected all the claims, stating there was insufficient credible evidence to conclude Robert Rackstraw was D.B. Cooper. Returning to the official investigation timeline, a major development occurred in February 1980. An 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram, while digging in the sand with his family at the Columbia River bank near Tennebar, accidentally uncovered 3 bundles of decaying $20 bills. The Ingram family immediately reported the discovery to authorities, and the information was quickly relayed to the FBI. The FBI conducted a thorough excavation at Tennebar and recovered 290 damaged 20 bills, totaling $5,800 from the 3 bundles. Serial number comparisons confirmed with certainty that the bills were part of the $200,000 ransom given to D.B. Cooper 9 years earlier. This discovery rekindled hopes of uncovering more clues. However, despite expanded searches at Tennebar and nearby Columbia River areas, no additional bills, parachutes, remains, or Cooper's personal belongings were ever found. The case, once again, reached a dead end. A new scientific approach to the case was carried out between 2009 and 2011 by a group of independent scientists and investigators known as Citizen Sleuths, led by researcher Tom Kay. They used scanning electron microscopes to analyze microscopic particles found on the black tie Cooper left behind. The analysis identified thousands of particles, notably pure titanium, strontium sulfide, cerium, and several other rare earth elements. These materials were uncommon in everyday life in the early 1970s, but typical high-tech industries or advanced engineering environments. For example, aircraft manufacturing, including Boeing subcontractors, specialized metal fabrication, or even chemical laboratories. Based on the unique combination of rare particles, investigators hypothesized that D.B. Cooper may have worked in or frequently visited a highly specific industrial or technical environment. He might have been an engineer, technical worker, or manager in such a field. Although the scientific analysis opened up interesting new leads, it still wasn't enough to determine Cooper's identity. In July 2016, after 45 years of relentless investigation and countless leads with no conclusive result, the FBI officially closed the active investigation and archived the case as inactive. The hijacking of Flight 305 is not only one of the greatest mysteries in U.S. aviation, but also a symbol of pop culture. It represents the clash between criminal intellect and investigative limits, as well as the boldness and cold composure of one man facing the system. The story of D.B. Cooper is also a reminder that sometimes the truth remains hidden, quietly waiting for a chance discovery, a new method, or a late confession to come to light. What do you think about the D.B. Cooper case? Leave a comment below so we can discuss it together. If you found this video compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to support the channel. Thank you for watching. See you in the next mystery.
Summer of 2016, on the island of Malta, the body of a young German tourist, Mike Mansholt, was discovered at the base of Dingley Cliffs. The terrifying detail was that his body weighed only 16 kilograms, with no internal organs and showing numerous unusual injuries. Authorities claimed it was an accident, but Mike's family and many others did not believe this theory. The murky details surrounding the case only fueled more suspicion. Behind the tranquility of Dingley Cliffs, could there be a larger conspiracy? Was this an organ trafficking operation, or were there darker forces hiding the truth? How could a healthy, vibrant young man meet such a horrifying fate? This video will unveil dark secrets and heartbreaking stories you've never heard. Hit like and subscribe to explore the mystery with us. July 22, 2016, a fateful day. Mike Mansholt, a 17-year-old German boy passionate about traveling, was preparing to return home after an exciting adventure in Malta. His family eagerly awaited his return, filled with pride and anticipation. That morning, Mike's mother, Susan, arrived early at Bremen Airport to welcome her son home. When the flight from Malta landed, all passengers had left the baggage claim area, but Mike was nowhere to be seen. Initially, Susan tried to stay calm, thinking perhaps her son had changed flights at the last minute. But as time passed, her worry began to grow. Hours later, with no calls or messages from Mike, a mother's intuition told her something terrible had happened. She immediately took out her phone to call Mike, but his number was unreachable. Susan contacted her husband, Bernd, to report the situation. That evening, the entire family tried to reach out to Mike's friends and acquaintances in Malta. Despite their efforts, no one had any information about him. On the morning of July 23, 2016, unable to contact Mike, his family reported his disappearance to the German Federal Police. Upon receiving the information, the police quickly implemented support measures and contacted the Maltese authorities for assistance. The Maltese authorities promptly launched a search operation. Search teams were deployed across the island, focusing on places Mike was believed to have visited during his trip. They understood that every passing minute was a lost opportunity to save a life. Meanwhile, Mike's father, Bernd, and his brother Daniel boarded a flight to Malta to participate in and oversee the search. During the search, Maltese police began investigating Mike's itinerary and activities on the island. Stories about the adventurous 17-year-old gradually came to light. Mike was a vibrant young man, raised in a family that loved traveling. Born to parents who were passionate explorers, Mike's love for adventure was nurtured from a young age. From family trips at sea, he began dreaming of exploring the world on his own. After graduating high school and securing a job, Mike proudly planned his first solo trip, entirely funded by his own earnings without financial support from his parents. In early July 2016, Mike booked a trip to Malta. The journey was not only a fulfillment of his dream, but also an opportunity to meet his girlfriend, who was studying there, and accompany her back to Germany for a short vacation. On July 8, 2016, Mike arrived in Malta and stayed at a small hotel on the eastern side of the island. There, he began enjoying his vacation with his girlfriend. Over the following week, they explored the beautiful landscapes of Malta together. Everything seemed normal until Mike made a fateful decision that turned his promising trip into a tragedy. On July 17, 2016, Mike's girlfriend left Malta to return to Germany as planned. However, captivated by Malta's beauty, Mike decided to extend his stay to experience traveling alone. Both agreed on this plan and bid each other farewell. Fascinated by archaeology, Mike set his sights on exploring the ancient catacombs of Rabat, known as the Kingdom of the Dead, by himself. On July 18, 2016, Mike left his hotel at 10 a.m., filled with excitement and curiosity. He rented a mountain bike for a day, mounted an action camera on the handlebars, and began his journey of exploration. When the rental period ended, the shop owner waited, but Mike didn't return as scheduled. Worried, they reported the situation to the police. Initially, the local authorities in Malta didn't take Mike's disappearance seriously, assuming he was a tourist who lost track of time while sightseeing. However, things changed when calls to Mike's phone went unanswered, and German police requested assistance, bringing the case under greater scrutiny. On July 26, 2016, 8 days after Mike's disappearance, the police received an anonymous tip. The tip indicated that a body had been found at the base of Dingley Cliffs, the highest cliffs on the island of Malta. Maltese police immediately mobilized forces to the site. Dingley Cliffs, known for their stunning views, are a famous but treacherous tourist destination due to their steep and rugged terrain. Upon arrival, the police found a body in an advanced state of decomposition, exposed to the sun for several days. The body was located in a hard-to-reach crevice, complicating the recovery and examination of the scene. Initial checks revealed that the clothing matched what Mike had been wearing in the final CCTV footage at the hotel. The green t-shirt and long pants were intact, but Mike's backpack, phone, and GoPro camera, items he was known to carry, were nowhere to be found. Mike's rented bike was found about 50 meters from the body. The seat was twisted, and the rear tire was flat, but the frame was almost undamaged. Mike's father, Bernd, and brother Daniel were also present at the scene. Bernd immediately recognized his son's body by the familiar clothing and build. Nevertheless, he requested the police conduct a formal identification to ensure there was no mistake. The police used dental records provided by the family to confirm the identity. A comparison of Mike's teeth with his dental records quickly established a match. This was the first step in confirming the body as that of Mike Mansholt. Strangely, all of Mike's personal belongings, including his backpack, wallet, phone, and credit cards, were missing, raising suspicions that the incident wasn't just an accident. After conducting an autopsy, Maltese police quickly concluded that Mike had died in a biking accident on the mountain. According to their findings, he likely lost control and fell off the Dingley Cliffs. Initially, this explanation seemed plausible and the case was considered closed. However, as the investigation progressed, numerous irregularities began to surface. First, Mike was known to be passionate about recording videos and taking photos. He always carried his recording equipment to capture moments of his trip. But when the police inspected the scene, none of Mike's filming devices were found. The next oddity emerged when Bernd visited the morgue. A forensic staff member disclosed something unusual. The autopsy revealed no fractures on Mike's body. This completely contradicted the earlier claim that Mike had died from falling 250 meters, as previously stated by the police. Despite these conflicting findings, Maltese authorities steadfastly maintained that Mike's death was due to an accident. This conclusion left Mike's family frustrated and full of doubt. Bernd, Mike's father, refused to give up. He visited the site of Mike's death, searching for clues and questioning locals near Dingley Cliffs. Strangely, the residents seemed evasive, as if they knew something but were unwilling to speak. The eerie silence of the locals only reinforced the family's belief that the police were concealing a horrifying secret behind Mike's death. However, their suspicions lacked concrete evidence to substantiate them. The investigation remained stalled, yielding no significant progress. On August 17, 2016, Bernd and Daniel returned to Germany with Mike's body. It was a particularly heartbreaking day for the family, as it should have been Mike's 18th birthday. Instead of celebrating, they were preparing for his funeral. Mike's body was sent to a funeral home for burial preparations. However, during the process, the funeral director contacted the family to report something unusual. Mike's body was far too light for someone of his age and build, weighing only about 16 kilograms. Suspicious of something amiss, the funeral home requested permission from Mike's family to conduct a closer examination. The results left everyone shocked. Most of Mike's internal organs, including his heart, lungs, kidneys, and small intestine, were missing. The family was completely devastated, and this revelation had never been disclosed by the Maltese authorities. In anger and despair, Bernd immediately contacted Maltese authorities to demand an explanation and the return of his son's missing organs. However, Malta's response was even more unbelievable. They claimed that Mike's organs had already disappeared before the autopsy. The Maltese authorities explained that his organs had been consumed by scavenging animals and his brain had liquefied due to exposure to sunlight. These explanations were entirely unconvincing to the family, especially since Mike's body had only been found 8 days after his disappearance. The story quickly became an international case. German prosecutors got involved, launching an investigation into the cause of Mike's death. However, with time having passed and crucial evidence missing, they could only propose theories. Mike fell from the cliffs, died in a road accident or was potentially the victim of a serious crime. The case hit a dead end due to a lack of concrete evidence, leaving Mike's family to grapple with unresolved grief. Despite everything, the truth behind Mike's death remains a mystery, intriguing many people. With details like his 16 kilograms body weight, missing organs, absent personal belongings, and inconclusive forensic reports, numerous theories arose, ranging from accidents to crimes to more mysterious circumstances. Let's revisit these theories together. Scenario 1. Mike fell from the cliffs. Initially, this seemed the most plausible explanation. However, German forensic scientists dismissed it, as a fall from 20 to 30 meters would have caused severe bodily injuries, yet Mike's body was nearly intact, with no fractures. Scenario 2. Mike was accidentally shot by a hunter. Some speculated Mike might have been hit by a bullet and fallen off the cliffs, but upon closer examination, no bullets or evidence of gunshot wounds were found on his body. Scenario 3. Mike was involved in a traffic accident. Some suggested that Mike might have been hit by a car, and to cover up the incident, the driver moved his body and bike to the cliffs to stage the scene. However, this theory was unsupported, as neither the bike nor the body showed signs of a severe collision. Scenario 4. Mike was a victim of robbery. The absence of his backpack, phone, and GoPro led many to believe he was attacked for his valuables. However, there were no signs of a struggle or external injuries on his body. Scenario 5. Mike was killed for his organs. This was one of the most controversial theories. The loss of all internal organs aligned with organ trafficking cases. But medical experts pointed out that organs must be harvested in sterile environments for transplantation, which would be impossible in natural conditions. There was also no evidence that the body was moved after the organs were taken. Scenario 6. Mike committed suicide. Some speculated that Mike might have taken his own life after his girlfriend left the island. But his father strongly denied this possibility, asserting that Mike showed no signs of depression or mental distress. Moreover, the scene and body condition didn't support this theory. Scenario 7. Mike died from exhaustion or dehydration. Some believed he might have collapsed due to heat stroke, dehydration, or physical exertion. However, there was no way to confirm this, as all his internal organs, which could have provided answers, were missing. These theories were widely discussed in Germany, but in Malta, silence prevailed. The Maltese police report closed the case just one day after Mike's body was found, further fueling suspicions of a cover-up. Mike's father, Bernd, refused to give up. He repeatedly questioned and demanded further investigation, but his efforts were met with silence and a lack of cooperation from Maltese authorities. After months of relentless effort by Mike's family, the case saw no significant progress. The Maltese government maintained their stance that Mike's death was an accident, despite the glaring evidence and suspicions raised by his family. In November 2016, Bernd sought the help of private investigators in Germany to uncover the truth. These investigators thoroughly reviewed forensic reports and found numerous inconsistencies in Malta's conclusions, but lacked the authority to investigate directly. In April 2017, Bernd and the family's legal team petitioned the European Union for support in launching an independent investigation into Mike's death. However, without clear international jurisdiction, their request was denied. The family was forced to accept that they couldn't pursue the case further without new evidence. By late 2017, the case was officially closed in both Malta and Germany, with the conclusion, cause undetermined. This left a deep scar on Mike's family and outraged the public who had followed the case. To honor his son, Bernd founded a non-profit organization called Seeking Justice, aimed at supporting families with missing loved ones or those facing similar tragedies. The organization gained attention and provided assistance to many cases across Europe. On September 4, 2018, marking the second anniversary of Mike's death, the family held a large memorial service in their hometown, attended by hundreds of supporters. At the service, Bernd stated, "We will always love and remember Mike. The truth may forever remain a mystery, but his spirit will live on in every journey we take." While the full truth may never be revealed, Mike's story continues to inspire and warn travelers about the importance of safety and vigilance on every journey. This video concludes here. Thank you for following this gripping story. If you found this video compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to catch our next fascinating stories.
A wild party with 11 men ended with the mysterious death of Christine, a beautiful flight attendant. Bruises, scratches, and traces of semen on her body raised suspicions that she might have been assaulted to death. Police quickly identified the 11 men at the party as the main suspects. Conflicting statements, evidence discrepancies, and the victim's family's outrage pushed the case into the media spotlight. Then, a surprising twist emerged. The police declared all suspects innocent. Was this explanation convincing, or just a cover-up for the truth? The case became a symbol of the Philippine justice system's failures and the injustices victims endure. This is entirely a true story. Join us as we uncover dark secrets and gripping twists you've never heard before. Don't forget to like and subscribe to explore this story with us. The central figure of this story is Christine Dacera. Born on April 13, 1997, in General Santos, she was the second of 4 siblings. From a young age, Christine stood out with her natural beauty. Neighbors often praised her sweet and elegant appearance. Christine wasn't just beautiful. She was also an excellent student, always at the top of her class, becoming the ideal role model in the eyes of parents. In 2017, she participated in the Miss Universe Philippines pageant and won the title of first runner-up. However, she didn't achieve significant fame in the entertainment industry, but she never gave up. Christine decided to pursue another dream, becoming a flight attendant. With confidence and talent, she quickly passed the rigorous selection process and officially joined the Philippine Airlines crew in 2019. This success marked a significant turning point in Christine's life. To facilitate her work, Christine Dacera moved to Manila, the bustling and vibrant capital of the Philippines. It was here she began building her independent life, shining with confidence as a flight attendant for Philippine Airlines. On December 28, 2020, Christine posted a photo with the caption, "The last flight of the year." Little did anyone know that caption inadvertently foretold her tragic fate. That flight wasn't just the last of the year. It was the last of her life. On December 31, 2020, New Year's Eve, a time when everyone eagerly awaited the new year, Christine decided to make the night unforgettable. She planned to invite a few close friends to celebrate together. Coincidentally, 3 of her close friends, Romeo Gallio, Goodman Jonah, and another companion, suggested hosting a party at a special venue. After some discussion, they chose the 4-star City Garden Hotel in Makati, a location renowned for its luxury and excellent service. Christine and her 3 friends checked into room 2209 at the hotel. Initially, it was just a small gathering of 4 people. However, things quickly changed when her 3 friends unexpectedly invited 8 more people. These guests were all men and strangers to Christine. The 8 new guests checked into room 2207, right next to Christine's group. Interestingly, aside from Christine, the remaining 11 men all knew each other. A lone woman at a party with 11 men, one could only imagine how wild their New Year's Eve celebration turned out to be. The group of 12 partied continuously to loud music until 6 a.m. before eventually falling asleep. At 10 a.m. the next morning, Gallio was the first to wake up. He groggily walked into the bathroom. The sight that greeted him made him freeze. Christine lay in the bathtub, motionless, as if in a deep sleep. Thinking she had drunk too much and fallen asleep, Gallio didn't wake her but gently pulled a hotel blanket over her and returned to bed, unaware that this action would haunt him later. Near noon, Gallio woke again, sensing something was wrong. He returned to the bathroom to check on Christine. This time, from a distance, he noticed her face was pale, with an unusual bluish hue to her skin. A vague fear gripped him. Trembling, Gallio moved closer to check her breathing. He froze in horror upon realizing Christine was dead. Overwhelmed and panicked, Galio immediately called his friends Goodman and Sina for help. The three tried performing CPR on Christine, but to no avail. With no other options, they sought assistance from hotel staff to transport her to Makati Hospital. At the hospital, doctors confirmed Christine had passed away before arrival. The initial conclusion was that she died from a ruptured aortic aneurysm. Additionally, numerous signs of possible assault raised suspicion of foul play, prompting the doctors to report the case to Makati police. On January 2, 2021, the autopsy results were released, confirming the hospital's findings. The cause of death was a ruptured aortic aneurysm. However, the forensic report revealed more unusual signs on her body. Forensic doctors noted bruises and scars on Christine's right arm, knees, and ankles. Notably, scratches and tears were observed on her inner thighs, intensifying suspicions of assault before her death. The scratches in Christine's intimate area were the most critical detail, leading to speculation that she might have endured a severe attack. Physical and mental pressure could have contributed to the ruptured aortic aneurysm, leading to Christine's painful and sudden death. The Makati City Police Chief quickly held a press conference after receiving the forensic results. He declared, "This is a serious murder case. The 11 men present with the flight attendant are the prime suspects." He also revealed that semen was found in Christine's body, considered key evidence supporting the theory that she might have been assaulted before her death. 3 suspects were arrested, while the remaining 8 were being aggressively hunted. He gave the remaining suspects a 72-hour deadline to surrender, warning of severe consequences if they continued to evade capture. This information spread nationwide, sparking outrage and heated discussions. A beautiful flight attendant, 11 men, a wild night, and a mysterious death. These elements turned the case into a media frenzy. Social media platforms exploded with polarized opinions. Many harshly criticized the group of 11 men, demanding strict justice and punishment. Others blamed Christine's reckless lifestyle, arguing she put herself at risk. While the public debated, an unexpected development occurred. The 3 arrested suspects consistently claimed they were innocent and had nothing to do with Christine's death. The 3 suspects stated they were Christine's closest friends. According to them, no one in their group had any intention of harming her. They even revealed a surprising detail. All 3 were gay. "We only care about men, we're not interested in women," they claimed, also asserting that the other 8 men were part of the LGBTQ+ community. Their statements raised new questions. If all 11 men were uninterested in women, why did Christine show signs of assault? Where did the semen found in her body come from? Could a 12th individual have entered the scene during that fateful New Year's Eve? The families of the 11 suspects didn't remain silent. They began speaking out, accusing the police of handling the case unprofessionally. They concluded our children were guilty without proper investigation. "This is a grave injustice," one parent exclaimed. The mounting pressure forced the investigative team to re-examine the case thoroughly. This time, flaws in the investigation began to surface, shocking not only the suspects' families but also the public. The first oversight was finding semen in Christine's body, but failing to conduct DNA comparisons with the suspects before announcing it as incriminating evidence. Such a hasty move raised doubts about the accuracy of the conclusion. Although the forensic report detailed the victims' injuries, it did not clarify how they were inflicted. This left major questions about the true cause of Christine's death. Reviewing the hotel's surveillance footage revealed a narrative completely different from the initial theory. At 11:38 p.m. on December 31st, Christine was seen on camera holding a glass of wine and chasing 2 men from room 2207 to room 2209. She appeared cheerful and relaxed. The footage showed no signs of coercion or struggle. She seemed fully engaged in the festivities, contradicting earlier assumptions of an assault. During this time, Christine called her mother, joyfully sharing that she was having a wonderful New Year's Eve at the hotel, with no indication of any distress. At 2:50 a.m., cameras captured Christine holding hands with a man as they left room 2209. She smiled naturally, exuding happiness, while the man accompanying her looked slightly reluctant. 2 minutes later, the man led Christine back to room 2209. He repeatedly rang the doorbell and knocked on the door, nervously glancing around as if seeking an escape from an awkward situation. Christine suddenly leaned in and kissed the man. Her actions left him visibly embarrassed, awkwardly pushing her away gently. His body language suggested discomfort and a desire to end the situation quickly. This man was identified as Goodman, one of Christine's closest friends. At 4:13 a.m., cameras recorded Christine heavily intoxicated, unsteady on her feet. An unidentified man had to carry her back to room 2209. At 6:23 a.m., Christine appeared again on camera, this time exhausted and being carried by another individual back to room 2209. Apart from the surveillance footage, Christine's friends had taken a photo of her sitting in front of a toilet, visibly drunk. After the release of these videos and images, public sentiment shifted. Many concluded that Christine's friends had genuinely cared for her, ensuring her safety and helping her back to her room. Based on the new evidence, police were forced to release Christine's 3 close friends. They declared that the samples taken from her body might have been contaminated during the embalming process before the autopsy. A shocking announcement followed. Christine died of natural causes unrelated to the 11 men at the party. This statement stunned the public and reignited heated debates. Police, who had once issued warrants accusing the suspects of murder, now cleared them within hours, deeming them unrelated to the case. The rapid reversal left many questioning the investigation's integrity. Public outrage grew, criticizing the police's inefficiency and transparency. Questions about corruption and mishandling of the case echoed throughout the nation. Speculation arose that the suspects' families had leveraged their wealth and influence to pressure law enforcement. The public demanded a thorough and transparent reinvestigation, urging the removal of any corrupt elements. Christine's family insisted that she had been drugged and abused before her death. Her mother declared she was willing to have her daughter's body exhumed for another autopsy if necessary. The grieving mother told the press, "I cannot accept any hasty conclusions. If necessary, I will do whatever it takes to ensure justice is served. My daughter did not deserve such an unjust death." Her statement immediately sparked a wave of strong public support. Christine's family officially filed a lawsuit against the police and related agencies, accusing them of negligence and carelessness in the investigation. Additionally, Christine's mother appealed directly to the President of the Philippines, urging him to seek justice for her daughter. On January 27, 2021, after weeks of investigation, the Philippine National Bureau of Investigation held a press conference to release the final forensic report. The report revealed that Christine's heart weighed 500 grams, far exceeding the average weight of 300 grams for a normal person. Experts concluded that this condition might have resulted from a sudden spike in blood pressure, leading to the ruptured aortic aneurysm, the direct cause of death. Internal hemorrhaging was also detected in her kidneys, supporting the hypothesis that Christine's death was not caused by external forces, but was a result of extreme physical strain from alcohol consumption and prolonged excitement. Investigators found a white powder in the hotel room, initially suspected to be illegal drugs. However, tests confirmed it was only table salt, with no illicit substances linked to the case. Separate tests conducted on the 11 suspects revealed no traces of illegal substances in their bodies. However, a small amount of medication for high blood pressure was found in Christine's system, providing another clue about her health condition. The bruises and abrasions on Christine's body remained controversial. While there was no direct evidence linking them to foul play, investigators suggested they could have resulted from drunken falls or the process of transporting her to the hospital in a wheelchair. Christine's close friends insisted they did everything possible to save her. They recounted performing CPR when they found her unresponsive before seeking hotel staff's assistance to get her to the hospital. On April 23, 2021, the police released a 19-page investigation report concluding that there was insufficient evidence to classify the case as a homicide. The report emphasized that none of the suspects had any motive for a crime, and their actions were solely aimed at helping Christine. Christine's death was ruled to have been caused by natural factors, including alcohol consumption, excitement, and underlying health conditions. After months of debate, the police officially dismissed all charges against the 11 suspects due to a lack of evidence. They asserted that there was no criminal activity linked to the group and declared the case closed. Nevertheless, public outrage persisted. Christine's family continued to accuse the 11 men of committing a crime and lying. They claimed the evidence was tampered with and demanded an independent investigation. In response, 5 of the 11 men filed counter-lawsuits against Christine's family, accusing them of defamation and slander on social media, escalating the legal battle for months. On February 7, 2022, over a year after Christine's death, the police once again stated that all accusations related to her death were unfounded. They also issued an official statement declaring the case closed and urged the public to stop spreading rumors. Additionally, the police announced that City Garden Hotel was fined and suspended from operating for 6 months for violating pandemic protocols. At the time of the incident, government regulations strictly limited 2 people per room. The hotel violated these rules by allowing the group of 12 to host an unauthorized party. However, the case could not simply end there. Christine's family refused to accept the closure and continued to demand a review of the case by the Philippine government. Meanwhile, some Filipinos believed the case had been manipulated by financial influence. Reports of the suspects' affluent backgrounds fueled suspicions that they used money to pressure law enforcement and investigative agencies. Facing pressure from all sides, the Philippine government pledged to reform its investigation system to ensure similar incidents would not occur in the future. However, this promise did little to quell public skepticism and anger. The Christine Dacera case became a symbol of the justice system's weaknesses and the injustices victims endure. It also highlighted issues of discrimination and inequality in society, prompting calls for comprehensive reform. This concludes today's story. Thank you for watching this thrilling account. If you found it intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to ensure you don't miss our next captivating stories.